Hello, my bomb blowers and bomb masters, and today I am here with another Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes modded module tutorial. And today I am here with the module Baccarat. Baccarat is, as you may expect, a module about the board game Baccarat. It involves you betting on a field on the module that returns a positive yield. I'll explain more module, and we begin diffusing it. This does require edge work, so I will go ahead and start by getting the edge work and cutting back. Give me 1 minute. Okay, now that I have edge work, let's go ahead and take a look at the module. This module consists of 5 fields for betting on player pair, tie, pair, banker, and player. It also consists of a chip in the bottom left corner and 2 arrows that increase or decrease the value of the chip. They range from $1, $5, $25, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000, $25,000, and $100,000. So, as a diffuser, the read is simple. All you need to do is read off the table limits, which, for this one, is 50 to 3,000, and the color of the deck. There are only 4 choices: red, green, blue, or silver. So, this is, I'd say it's silver. And with that, the expert can now go and do the entire module. Thrilling. So, how does one do a Baccarat? The first thing I'd like to mention is the card's index. As the deck states, it is the position in a brand new unshuffled pack of cards. Ace through king, ace through king of hearts, ace through king of clubs, king through ace of diamonds, king through ace of spades. There is a unicorn that if the bomb has a lit indicator with label Bob and exactly 8 or 9 ports, the deck is actually in the unshuffled order in the top of the page. Of course, the deck is shuffled, unless you get the unicorn, and I will explain how to get the order of the cards now.
Please return to your stations.
I have a nifty guide over here that tells you the index of cards. A number under a specific card is the 10 times that number's position in the deck. So this is the 10th card, this is card 20, card 30, 40, and 50. So, the first thing to do to figure out the card's position in the first card's position in the deck is to consult these 2 tables. We use the table limits to figure out which rows we use. The minimum is $50, which means we use this, and the ratio, which is simply just the highest divided by the lowest. 3,000 divided by 50 is 60, which is greater than 50 but less than or greater to 100, so we use this row. We use the last letter of the serial number and the second digit of the serial number, which means we use Bravo and 7. The last letter is Bravo, the second number is 7. If we got a sum of all or a sum of all mod 10, then we would take either the sum of all letters in the serial number, modulo 26, of course. So, for this one, for example, it would be 12 plus 19 plus 26 plus 2. Subtract 26 until it's in the range of 1 to 26. And that would be 7, which means we would use golf. Same thing applies for the digits, just modulo 10. 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 modulo 10 is 8. So we would use 8 if we had some of them. So now we have these 2 characters. What do we do? Take the alphabetic position of the obtained letter, which is 2, plus 26 times the obtained digit, plus the number of solved modules at the time the deck first appeared on the mod. This is important. Do not forget this. This only matters if you strike on the module. If the module has not struck, you will always use 0 for the number of solved modules. Since we have not struck and there are no solves, we take this. This gives us the value of the first card. So, let's take this, 184. Subtract 52 until within the range of 1 to 52. Okay? We get 28. This is the index of the first card used. Let me switch the order of these 2 around because order in which cards are dealt. Do note that this is a game of Baccarat between a player and a banker. The player gets the first card, which is 28. Okay, so how do we determine any subsequent cards? This table. The deck color is silver. The most common vanilla port. Well, we have a tie. What do? We have RCA and RJ. If there is a tie, take the sum of the relevant columns positions numbered 1 to 6 in reading order, which just left to right. Subtract 6 until within the range 1 to 6 and use that column. Okay. So the RJ column is 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth one. And the RCA column is the sixth one. 4 plus 6 is 10. Subtract 6, and we get 4, meaning we use the fourth column, which is the RJ. This gives us the number 51. To determine a card's successor, multiply its index by the appropriate value from the table below. So 51 from the table, our first card was a 28, so let's take 51 multiplied by 28. Take the result modulo 53, and that is the next card's index. Go ahead and do that. The next card's index is 50. Let's go ahead and keep doing this for 2 more cards, because the game starts with both the player and the banker receiving 2 cards. The player gets the first card, then the banker, then the player again, then the banker again. There we go. Let's translate these to their appropriate values using this little nifty diagram. Number 28 is 2 less than 30, meaning it is a queen. 6 is, well, 6. 50 is a 3, and 41 is 1 more than 40, which means a queen. So now, let's take the sum of the values of the cards. Aces are worth 1 point, and the numbered card is worth from 2 to 9, I should say. All these cards are worth the value listed on them, and 10, jack, queens, and kings are all worth 0. So we have a queen, which is worth 0, and 6, which means the player's total is a 6, as well as a 3 and a queen. Queen is worth 0, plus 3 is 3. Something to note is that if, and only if, you have both of the player's cards be of the same rank, or both of the banker's cards be of the same rank, only then will betting on player pair or banker pair return a profit. This almost never happens, but if it does, please be worthy of that. If that does happen, you will have to bet specially on that, which I will get to later when we discuss betting. Anyway, what next? Let's go to the top of the manual about Baccarat rules. We have already dealt, so let's go to the next paragraph. At this point, if either hand has a total of 8 or 9, the round immediately ends and all bets are resolved. The person with 8 or 9 points in their hand would win the bet, the player or the banker. Otherwise, both the player and the banker are given an option to draw a third card, and then all bets are resolved. The player is given the option to draw first. If the player's total is 5 or less, which it is not. With a total of 6 or 7, the player stands 2 cards. Standing with 2 cards means the player just does not get a third card, and they're good to go with whatever they got. The banker decides after the player makes their choice. If the player stood with 2 cards, the banker draws a third card with a total of 5 or less, and stands with a total of 6 or 7. We have a total of 5 or less, which means the banker is going to draw a third card. But, let's say the player did not stand with 2 cards. We would take the banker's total on the left, which goes from 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, or 2, or 1, or 0, because 8 or 9 would have went ahead and won the game for the banker. The banker would draw a third card only if the condition on the right applies. It's never if you get a 7, always if you have a 2, 1, or 0, and depending on what the player's third card was, determines if the banker draws a third card. We've already established with this paragraph that the banker is going to draw a third card, so we're going to go ahead and do what we did previously and take the value of the last card drawn, which is 41, multiply it by the specific number from the table on the second page, or the last page of the manual. Modulo 53 gives us 24. This is 20. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is a jack. Because a jack is a face card, that means nothing is added to the banker's total, which means the player has a higher total than the banker. The player with the higher total wins. Now that we know who won, we know we are betting on the play. You always bet on the person that wins. So, how do we submit? Simply, you bet. To place a bet, place one or more chips into the appropriately marked location. Long press the betting area to remove your bet. The bottom left corner of the module shows which denomination is currently active. Use the arrow buttons to switch denominations. When you're done, gesture at the deck to begin the deal. What this means is, like I said earlier in the mod, the chip at the bottom left determines how much you're currently placing in a bet. You can place something, but if you want to clear the betting area, you can hold it, and it will clear it. And once you are satisfied with your bet, just simply tap the deck, and it will go ahead and submit that. It will also play out in the Baccarat game, as it should have been played out. This can be used to double check whether or not you got your cards correct. Let's continue reading. You must place a bet on either the player or the banker, but not both at the same time. This bet must adhere to the posted table limits. The table limits are 50 to 3,000, so we cannot bet less than 50 on the banker or player, nor can we bet more than 3,000. The limits for the tie, player pair, and banker pair side bets are worth 1/10 of the posted limits. Please note that. If you're going to bet on either of these, please adjust your bet otherwise. And do note that you must place a bet on the player or the banker, which means if there is a tie, you still have to place some money within the table limits on the player or the banker. Just make sure your bet on tie gives you a greater payout. So for example, we take this, we can bet $50 on the banker, or the player, but not both. And because the maximum table limit is 1/10 of that... Sorry, for tie, we can only bet 1/10 of the maximum limit. We would bet 300 on tie, and that would give us a solve. When placing a bet with multiple denominations of chips, meaning if we wanted to bet... Let's just go with something basic. If we wanted to bet a 500, a 100, and a 25 at the same time, they must be ordered by value with the largest on the bottom and the smallest on the top. So we would want to bet 500, then 100, then 25. If we try to bet a 25 and then a 100 after, I thought it struck you, but I think it strikes if you deal with an incorrect placement of chips. If you deal with an incorrect assortment of chips, then you will receive a strike as soon as you press the button, but then the betting will be resolved for you. Attempting to start with the deal, breaking this rule will not enter a play, but the dealer will first reduce chip. Yep, that's what I said. So, what do we do here? Well, neither the player's first two cards nor the banker's first two cards were of the same rank, which means we do not care about the player pair or the banker pair. We know the player won because they have the higher total, so we're going to bet on the player. You can bet pretty much anything you want, as long as you make a profit. This tells you details about the payouts in each case. If the player has a higher total, the player bet pays even money while the banker bet loses. If the banker has the higher total, the banker bet pays 19 to 20, equivalent to even money less of 5% commission to the house, while the player bet loses. If the player and banker tie, the player and banker bets push, while the tie bet pays 8 times. The tie bet loses in other circumstances. The player pair bet pays 11 times. Same with the banker pair bet. It only pays if the original two cards are the same rank, and otherwise you get nothing. So basically, what this means is just bet on the player that wins, if there's a tie, bet barely anything on player or banker, since you have to, and bet the maximum amount that you can on the tie. We know that the player won, so let's go ahead and bet something on the player. As long as it's within the table limits. You cannot bet lower than the table limits. Let's go ahead and just bet a nice 2,000 on the player. Let's play! Yay! And that is a solved module. Let's do one more, just for funsies.
Experts, please report to room A9.
I will go ahead and grab the edgework. I will be back shortly. We're back. So, as the diffuser, let me go ahead and make the expert template real quick. So, as the diffuser, give that the table limits, which is 50 to 20 grand. And the deck color, which is green. And let's do thing. We take the minimum in this table, which is 50, a ratio. That is highest divided by lowest, which is 20 grand, divided by 50, which gives us 400. 400 is greater than 200, but less than or greater to 500, which means we used this row as well. Which gives us the last letter, which is X-ray, and the last digit, which is 0. Oh, that does nicely. X is 24, so we take the alphabetic position of the letter, 24, plus 26 times the obtained digit. Ah, would you look at that? That's a 0, which means we're using 24 as the first card index. Let's go ahead and put 24 on the player side. Let's go to this table. The deck is green, and the most common port is definitively parallel, since 27. Let's go ahead and take our nifty formula back to this. 27, which is a number from the table, times the last card rank obtained, modulo 53,
Emergency
gives us 12.
Personnel, please return to your stations.
Let's do this again. Oops, not 24. That would be silly. 6, and this added magic gives us a 3. Ah, how'd I know? Let's compare this to our handy-dandy Baccarat card rank. 20, 1, 2, 3, 4 gives us a jack. 12 gives us a queen. 6 gives us a 6, and a 3 gives us a 3. Once again, the two cards do not match in rank, so neither the player bet nor the banker bet will win. I was hoping we get 2 face cards, but unfortunately we do not. But just in case you had, let's say, 6 and 8. 6 plus 8 equals 14. If you have a sum over 10, you use the last digit of the sum. But player has 6, and banker has 3. Huh, deja vu. Let's go back to the background rules. Neither of them have 8 or 9, so nobody automatically wins. If the player has a total of 6 or 7, the player stands 2 cards. They do have a total of 6, so they're going to stand. The banker decides after the player to make their choice. If the player stood with 2, the banker draws his third card with a total of 5 or less, which they're going to. This feels very familiar. Let's do this. Which means the next card for the banker is 28. It's a queen. Well, that did nothing for you, banker. Your total is still 3. Which means the player still wins. Okay, so we just go ahead and bet on the player again. This was very similar to the last one. How about that? We can't do 25,000 since that's over 20,000, so let's go back down to 5,000. We're betting on the player, so let's do this, 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 this. We go ahead and bet. Yay! And that is a solved Baccarat. If you would like to use this as a reference for your Baccarat modules, please do go ahead. I can also post this on Pastepen or something if you want me to. And that is the Baccarat tutorial. Hopefully you learned how to do the module from this, and I will see you guys next time.